So if you're watching this, you're probably feeling overwhelmed with your finances and you are sick and tired of making a budget or some sort of plan, right, month after month, and then just like feeling like you're letting yourself down because you just don't stick with it. I promise you there's a better way, and this method I'm going to share with you has changed my life. Now I manage my money, finances, probably about 5 minutes a week. Okay, Jeremy, 5 minutes a week. No, I'm serious. Once you get this system, what I'm about to share with you set up, it's only gonna take you about 5 minutes a week. Now, if you're like me, I wanted to start spending smartly, right, naturally, and not have to obsess or have an anxiety 24/7 around my money, okay? And most of the people that I actually talk to about this, whether in my coaching calls or just in the comments, they can do a budget, but sticking to it is the problem. And typically what I find is they're missing one crucial step. And no, it's not like define your goals or your dreams or anything like that. So I know a lot of people talk about that, which is important, but that's not what I'm gonna be talking about. There's another step that people are missing. And after this video, I promise you're gonna have less stress and less guilt. So let's dive in. So for most people, even me, right, when you first start your financial journey, you whip out Excel and you get all fancy. Maybe you buy a journal, maybe you get some envelopes, maybe you buy some worksheets, right? And you write everything down manually, handwritten, because maybe if you do that, then you're more aware and more conscious of what you're spending. But then the end of the month comes by and then you realize you done messed up. And then you get so mad at yourself and you don't understand why. But then I realized, how could I change a lifetime of habits in a single month? So I took a different approach. I started looking at myself, right? So instead of looking at the money and trying to organize everything, right, get everything all planned out, no, I stopped that, looked at myself, analyzing my behaviors, my habits, my emotional side, what I believed about money, to understand why I spend and why I do the things that I do and why I buy the things that I buy. So to give you an example of that, I just recently had a coaching call with a woman here who has racked up thousands of dollars of credit card debt, and she didn't understand why she continued to spend and continue to rack up money. Let's take a look at her story. Talk about kind of like your past, like as far as like how you were raised, like what was money like in the home?
So that's where also like I feel I'm falling into the same habits, because my mom is like that. Like for us, it's always been like she's done everything she can to give us, like even though she couldn't, she would make a way to like give us what we wanted, and like the result of that was her getting into like debt, her always like borrowing, and that's one thing where I was like, I said, I'm never gonna borrow like from people. I'm never gonna, because I've seen what that does, and it's like not paying them back, like the friendship she lost and stuff like that. But then I feel like I'm picking up the other habits of just making it easy to like put it on a credit card, or I'm gonna pay it and then I don't end up paying it. You know what I mean? So like habits like that, like my mom has always struggled financially. And it's like I don't want to repeat that, but the way that I'm seeing right now, it's like I'm slowly repeating that. For example, go out to a restaurant. I have the money in my checking account, but I end up using the credit card because the fear, like, what if I use my regular money in my debit card, and then come next week, I run out and I'm short. And it's like, well, I'd rather just use a credit card because of that fear of like lacking in like a week or whatever. But I have it. You know what I mean?
So we didn't even talk about budgeting. As you can see, we really wanted to dive deep into her spending habits and why she felt like she needed to rack up credit card debt. And we realized it was because of the fear of touching her money in her checking account. And we realized the source of her spending habits was of the insecurity that she had. The insecurity, and I totally get that, right? Growing up with a single mom, right? Going through some financial hardships and struggles, right? You just want to keep on to everything that you think that you have because you don't want to lose that. And so helping her identify that that was the root of the issue, she can now get peace and start working on herself as far as like the insecurity, and she can find security elsewhere besides money. So what has helped me and what is helping her is really shift our mindset from a budgeter to a tracker. And so what I mean by that is, right, a budget gives you permission to spend. And tracking what you spend is understanding like how you spend. So instead of starting with a budget, start tracking your monthly spend expenses, look at those habits, and then adjust one at a time and get better incrementally month over month instead of trying to change everything at once. So let me break this down in 3 steps. First step, instead of like writing it down, try downloading a software like mint.com, EveryDollar, or QuickBooks, and upload your debit card or your credit card or whatever you use, even your debt. Upload everything there and track your monthly spending. And every single week, track and categorize your expenses. So like what you spend on food, what you spend in your gas, your mortgage, and your just shopping or whatever. And then at the end of the month, just take a look. That's the second step. Take a look and recognize your habits. And not from a judgmental point of view, but really from a point of view to understand yourself. Why did you spend this much on food? Why did you spend this much on clothes or whatever? And then identify and see, how could you improve in this area better? How could you improve in this area just a little bit better? And just focus on one area at a time. Don't try to change your food budget, your shopping budget, and maybe, whatever other categories that you may have, and try to change it all at once, but try one at a time. And the third thing, I think it's a really important step, is to ask yourself if you have any resentment towards others, those that raised you, or even yourself. And forgive yourself and really sympathize and empathize with those that raised you, and where did they come from? Let me kind of give you an example of that real quick here.
Do you have any resentment towards your mom because of how you are now?
No.
Okay, good.
I had no business like having these kind of toys or having this kind of like parties and stuff like that, because she wasn't financially stable to give us that. But she did. Somehow, some way she did. And so like it just made me see it like at the end of the day, like it was just her, I guess, like and I never talked to her about it because I know she gets offensive, she gets defensive about it. But the way that I just gathered is like, I think she felt if we had these things, we would be happier.
Exactly.
Or we would think like we had a good childhood, we were living like okay. But in result, like it put her in that position with all that, So I think just helping me see it and like everything and appreciate everything I had, like why she ended up in that position, because of like everything she gave us.
Got it.
Yeah.
And the reason I asked that is because I think I did a little with my mom, just because when I got older, I was like, why? I wish you would have instilled in me like financial education, like, I wish you would have understood or like taught me some things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And because I would be in a better position if you had. But then me sympathizing and really understanding, like, she was a mom of 4 kids. She didn't have any time. Like, she's just trying to survive. She was in survival mode. And then not only that, having sympathy for how she was raised, and so understanding how her parents were. And so like, I did have a little resentment in the beginning, but I'm glad you don't. But like, I feel like that's really the first step of kind of like, where things is having sympathy, understanding your mom's situation.
So really understanding our habits will help us understand why we do what we do. And most people are trying to change, right, a lifetime of those habits in just a month, and then they just beat themselves up. So it's so important to start taking inventory about where you're at and how you function before you start setting goals, because how can you set a goal if you don't even know where your starting point is? So if that was helpful, please hit the like button. I really want this message to get out those that really struggle with budgeting and looking for just a better way. And if you were like this woman and maybe you need some guidance or you're just not sure who to talk to, why don't you start by downloading my free guide below, and you can actually apply for a free coaching call with me. I only help just a few people a month, and I just do this for free. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk to you soon.